Have you ever wanted to rig characters in Toon Boom Harmony, but the node view scares the crap out of you? Well, I'm hosting a mini workshop that might just be what you're looking for. My name is Tony Ross, and I'm the owner and creator of pt2.com, where we specialize in taking programs that have a steep learning curve and teaching them in a way that's really comfortable for beginners and novices to catch on to. So, on Saturday, October 21st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm hosting a 3-hour workshop where I'll show you how to rig a simple stick figure in Harmony Premium from scratch. This demo will go over working with the node view, using pegs, and basic parent-child rigging. In addition to this, I'll show you how you can save out a blank rig so you can attach your own artwork to it later. Now, this event is held online, but it is taught live, so you can ask questions during the demo as well as during the Q&A afterwards. Can't make it at that time? No worries. The workshop will be recorded and made available to all who signed up for the workshop. Though this workshop isn't free, it is actually cheaper than my hourly rate. So, this will be the first in a series of workshops, and I'll later be showing more complex things like working with deformers and even master controllers. But I actually want to start teaching people the very basics of working in Harmony Premium and how far you can go down the rabbit hole, which is creating your own animations. Seating is limited, so sign up today. Hope to see you there. Welcome back. Here's Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. I wanted to mention something. One, I want to give a shout out to, unfortunately, she couldn't join us this year, but voice actor and incredible actor, Miss Dawn Lewis. She could not join us this year, but something she said last year still messes with me a lot in a good way. And I wanted to share the clip because it's freaking amazing. Because there was a question that I typically don't ask voice actors, but it was basically asking, is there a better time in this time than for 2D animators to do their own thing and put out their own project? So I want to pull up this clip, and this is from last year. But again, it was a really cool clip. And then after that, we're going to dive directly into Dave Levy. So give me one moment. I think there hasn't been a better time for independent artists and animators to put out their own thing. And do you agree with that, or do you think it's crazy?
No, absolutely, it's not crazy. The reality is that we have more tools available us, like in the palm of our hands, than ever before. You don't have to be this amazing artist. There's so many things you can do on tablets, on computers that can help you sketch, that can help you animate, that can help you edit, that can help you color, that can help you add music. You literally, in today's computers with the right apps and software, you can do just about anything. So why not? And then you have the platform of social media, of YouTube, of all of these other platforms with which to get your material out there. The thing now becomes monetizing and protecting it. A lot of people, I believe, in this season of instant everything, don't make it a point to protect themselves and to figure out how to monetize and make a living at what they do. Too many people, I believe, are just so eager to be seen and eager to be popular that they don't take care of the business of show. It's called show business for a reason. And the word business is twice as long as the word show for a reason, because it's more important. You got to handle your business. It's great to be part of the show, but if you don't handle your business, you're about to be taken advantage of. You're about to be frustrated. You're about to be broke.
Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I have the pleasure of speaking with today Mr. Dave Levy. And I'm I've seen your book around a lot, and I'll be completely transparent. It's like it's on my reading list. I haven't actually finished reading it yet, or reading it. So, one, thank you for joining us. Two, uh, one, if you could tell everyone exactly what book am I talking about, and who are you, and why are you here?
Oh, wow. It's a good thing I have one next to me. So, my name is Dave Levy, or David Levy, either is fine. And I wrote this book called Your Career in Animation: How to Survive and Thrive. And this is the second edition, which came out a couple of years ago. And it was actually like a rewritten book, like almost like 80% like rewritten from the original edition from 2006. And but in terms of I'm currently the head of studio at Pinkfong USA. That's the LA office of the Pinkfong company that's headquartered in Seoul, Korea. And before that, I've worked for Disney for 10 years, and Nickelodeon for about 8 years prior to that, and ran my own virtual studio in New York for a 5-year jaunt. So I've had a lot of different lives in animation.
Coolness. And I we just started talking today, and you just talked in just straight off. One, awesome career. Two, do you do voiceover? Have you ever like read a book or something like that?
I haven't, but that's very flattering. I appreciate that.
I get that a lot from people, and so when I hear it in other people's voices, I'm like, hey. In case no one has actually told you. So yeah. So if you decide to make an audio book of that, go ahead and like, hey.
When I do, I'll thank you in the credits, Tony.
Awesome. So I am curious on a couple of things. And these are some questions that we've been asking of all of our panelists. So one of the questions I want to throw toward you, I'm kind of curious on your answer on this. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about becoming an animator?
Gosh, I think the biggest misconception I can see is just the disconnect between wanting to do animation and having the patience and passion to do animation. Because we all love watching cartoons, but that doesn't make everybody suited to work in the industry. And then so it's I love this analogy. If you were a kid or a teenager who was into like fixing cars, you would probably be under that car like every weekend, like under the family car or some jalopy you have that you could like play with and like rebuild the engine and get dirty and figure, kind of be in the weeds with that car. That same thing is true for animation, and it's easier than ever. So I feel like anyone who's considering entering this field should read some books on animation, should get some cheap or free software, start experimenting, doing animation, seeing if you enjoy the process. And the other, so that's one thing. I think do that before making a decision to spend your life pursuing this or going to school for animation. The other part to that answer is animator is but one job, right, in the pipeline. So I know we all get lumped into this animator title, but it's really but one position. And there's writers and there's designers and background artists and art directors and producers and voice artists, and so many people make up what becomes animation through their contributions. So there's a lot of jobs in animation.
Awesome. I definitely hear you on that one, and it reminds me of even when people say, whether it's they want to say, or if they say something to me like, I want to learn Photoshop or I want to learn Toon Boom Harmony. It's like what do you want to know? Because it's where are we going? What are you trying to learn? What specifically are you trying to do?
Yeah,
Because it's
that's a
always
great
that
point.
how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with this? I think about my colleague, Mr. It's like Adrian Fiawick, Imagine Panic, and I was thinking, yes, animation, be an animator, and then I watched one his effects animation that he does, and then also saw the speed that he works. I'm like, holy crap! And it's like, yeah, I'm not that kind of animator. I don't do that. I do something totally different.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's also animators that, or animation artists or animation professionals that work mostly in preschool or mostly in adult animated projects or 6 to 11 action adventure projects or, or movies and general audience films. There's so many categories, right, of animation. So I love your point of be specific, like basically try to drill down to like what in animation you'd want to do, what kind of stuff do you want to work on, and then that kind of gives you a bit of a compass, in your career, how you make decisions, what kind of jobs you're looking for, where do you want to work, and so on.
love that. Um, this is going to be a slight tangent. I was thinking also recently of when you're talking about the early animation, like everyone's talking about it. Is it Bluey? And
Mm,
I saw someone build their idea of what, and like, if we're going to build this rig, this is how it would be set up. Versus if we were going to do Peppa Pig, I think it would be like a much simpler like thing,
yeah.
or somewhere crossed in between. It would be like if we're going to do South Park or something like that. So it's always crazy.
I love that distinction you're making, and I feel like, and all of those are valid, right? That's the exciting thing for me about working in animation. Like Peppa Pig is very consistent with its own set of rules for how it moves, how it looks, the way they cut, like how compositions and staging works in that show for the storytelling, and it follows those rules and it's beautifully, and I don't want it to look any other way. I don't watch Peppa Pig and wish it looked like a Disney project or something that had more animation or more production values. And the same thing with South Park or Beavis and Butthead or all these things that have found the right way to tell their story. Like that's what's so cool about animation is there's not one way it has to be. It's like what's the right way to tell your story.
All right. My last tangent on this because you said something that's it's like Beavis and Butthead. I remember the first time I saw Beavis and Butthead, I hadn't even really studied animation yet, but I remember being this purist and or snob because I'm looking at this going, what is this crap? Why does this look this way? It's going to cheapen the way animation looks. Um, and then getting more into animation and understanding not everything has to be that clean and it has to be switched up
Yeah.
a little bit. And coming into it later, teaching and understanding animation. One of the things I caught when they did, I want to say it's the recent movie they did, and they're doing everything, of course, digitally now. But I looked at it and I figured out what it was that was bugging me, and I figured out how they kept the look consistent with the original. It's when they're changing the phonemes. Instead of changing just the mouth, they're redrawing the entire head. I'm
Sure.
going like, so that's why it has this really cool look. I'm going like, okay, I get it because is it Mike Judge? It was like he was talking about how
Yeah.
he was self-taught, and I'm going, yeah, you did that the really hard way. So
Sure.
it's like,
Instead of just replacing the mouth and
I
keeping the
know, right? It's like because I'm looking at it now, going, that's why they're moving all the time. It's like, okay,
Yeah, well, you get that cool, like we call it boil, or
yeah,
when the line kind of wiggles because you drew it twice. That's kind of a cool part of that look, that hand drawn, like it's kind of that indie, outsider kind of design. And what I do love about both South Park and Beavis and Butthead is they came from outsiders who weren't training to be animation people. They weren't really looking at how do I draw the way Powerpuff Girls is drawing or Adventure Time or whatever the hot thing is at the moment. They're
right.
not. That's not their what they're measuring themselves against. They're just figuring out, well, I can kind of do this, and they're coming with their own approach that's not part of this industry baggage of what's the style that everyone's doing. And thank goodness for them, because I feel like they kind of opened opened the door to so many other styles and points of view in animation that we wouldn't have if we were just constantly on this one timeline where everything references the thing before. You're copying of a copy of a copy, and it's that is an evolution of some sort, and you do get somewhere. But these other things, these curveballs, are what keeps it really cool.
Loving that. Okay, here's my second question for you. What genre, if any, do you think we need to see a lot more of in 2D animation?
Genre to see a lot more of in 2D animation. I think, well, 2D animation is really great for like adorable, sweet, cute, like preschool, like Peppa Pig, like you referenced already. It's used a lot in fantasy shows like Adventure Time, where it's more surreal and they can draw anything they need. And create a real fanciful world that CG might not be the one to do it with. So I get why 2D is there, and also the primetime sitcom feeling 2D has lent itself well to like Bob's Burgers and The Simpsons and all the shows between them. So that's where it is and where it's surviving. So I don't know, if I personally would be like, oh, I wish 2D was also doing this. The thing that I'm always a bit like, I don't know if animation can really do it is the horror genre, like where it's really like guttural, visceral scares. I know, I can get involved in anything that's animation, that's good storytelling. It can pull me in and make me cry, make me laugh, make me feel something. But I feel like I still believe, and I could be completely wrong, and people can challenge this and say I'm way off. But my feeling is like that horror genre doesn't really work for animation or for 2D specifically, because it's so removed from me believing I'm seeing my own danger on the screen. Like that disconnect is suddenly a problem. So I have that bias, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It's just how I feel. So I feel like 2D is where it belongs, but at the same time, how about more 2D, feature films like, or more hybrid styles like Mitchell's vs. Machines, where there's lots of 2D working with 3D to make it more expressive and more interesting. I think that's more of that, or Spider-Verse does that, where you get like all this mixture of mediums. So I think 2D has like a real future in kind of being part of the toolkit, like where it doesn't have to be a fully 3D film, doesn't have to be a fully 2D film or a stop motion film. It can use all those things whenever it wants to convey something.
Loving that. I have two responses to that. Okay. One, and I was mentioning this to someone else. Adam Phillips did Adam Phillips did Bitey Castle, but for a while he did a couple of little shorts. And this is that one thing of like, when I do win the $1.5 billion Powerball, it's like hunting him down and going, here's some money because I want you to do something with this. But he did this short called Taken. And I remember this is way back in like early 2000s that he did this. And I asked my class at the time, I said, do you think it's possible for someone to do a 2D animation that's horror? So I knew what was going to happen in the shot. And then it was like a quick little like I want to say 2, maybe 3 minutes piece that he did. So I played it. So I'm just watching my class to see what their response is going to be. And I was like, yep, okay. So I'm not the only one that got. So it's just really interesting the way it was done. And it's not even, it was very stylized. I'll have to send you that link. Okay. And two, I remember, it wasn't horror, but I remember watching the anime Paprika. And my wife and I got to see that in the theater.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I remember like we left the theater kind of walking and staring at reality for a second going, are we good? It was like, because it was like, it was so, and again, it was one of those things of no one had done that previously, but and it was just kind of like, I don't know, for that one, I think that, and I almost want to watch it again with new eyes, but I think we've all seen, whether it's a 2D movie or a regular a live action movie or a, I don't know, big budget movie, but we've all seen those shots where it's like, oh, okay, y'all skipped the budget on this one. There didn't seem to be that in Paprika. So it's like you went way out there, and then at the same time, you get lost in the point you don't even think about the animation anymore. So I think I would love to see
Great point.
the studio behind that, because if I'm right, I'm not sure if the director is still with us or not. But whoever handled that, I was like, well, if they handle horror, I think it would kind of mess with me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wait.
To your point, real quick, like when I watch something like a very stylized live action film like Wes Anderson, Hotel Budapest, I don't know if you've seen that one, but in that film, like, it's so stylized. He's like making this like almost like a diorama, right? The way he art directs and the way he like has artificial wardrobe, and the whole world he's creating is basically begging you to like not take it seriously, and not like it's saying I'm a movie, I'm a well-designed movie, and look at these performances where they're so stylized, and the dialogue and the acting and everything's so stylized, and then a character dies or gets beat up or attacked, and I'm at the edge of my seat, and I'm just horrified and feeling like, oh no, what's going to happen? I love this character. And then I realized the trick that is being played on me, where it's like, how are they pulling this off? How are they making this most stylized world? And I still am terrified this character is going to die inside this stylized world. Like, so I guess in a way that's that room that 2D could do horror films right there, if I think about it.
There's a running gag my wife and I have. We saw this, it was an episode of Rugrats, and I think they were dealing with dreams or something like that. And there was this one particular scene, we're watching it, and I think Chucky's kind of going after trying to catch up with Tommy or something, but he's still in a dream where he goes like, and it's like, Tommy, and like the character turns around. It's not a 3D face, but it gives me chills to this day. It was like, what in the Twilight Zone? Because he turned around and goes like, I'm not Tommy. And we still say that line to this day. I'm like, I want to find that episode, but I don't want to find that episode because it freaked us out. We're fully grown. Like I can't remember if we're right out of college or still in college, but we remember seeing that episode.
Yeah.
And this was like well over, I want to say over 2 decades ago, maybe. And it was like, we to this day, we go, I'm not Tommy. It's that weird little thing that's a little different. Or what is it? When they did the New Adventures of Johnny Quest, when they first pulled it off, I'm watching the episode, and I think one of the helicopters crashes in the side of a mountain, but they used an actual explosion on this 2D thing. So it wasn't 3D, it was like 2D, everything was 2D, 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 and all of a sudden the explosion happened. I was just like, wait, what? Like, it's that whole something, and maybe it's that whole thing of maybe it needs another outsider, something different that you weren't expecting to pop up. But,
got it.
But yeah, I do have to, I definitely have to send, I have to probably put that on the list of resources I put out for this summit. Like, got to check out this scene here. Got to check out Adam Phillips, the whole Taken thing. But yeah, I really want to see something that would, I don't know, kind of mess with you. Would it work, and get you there? And at the same time, like, what could you get away with? Can you get away with any? You have to be careful of strobing, of course. Any type of eye trippy stuff. Anyway, just figuring out where my head is going to go with that. So let me throw this toward you. Because this is a question that somebody asked me recently, and I did not send this to you. At least I don't think you sent it, or don't think you've sent it, because I want to say it popped up yesterday.
Sure.
So, do most animators or even story artists find work via apps like Fiverr or Upwork, or should they look for things like in the different online trades, different film commissions or things like that?
I think it's a mixture. I would never want anyone to like not exploit one avenue to connect themselves to work. So, it's usually there's so many answers to that. So it's basically combination of things. And first and foremost, in the animation industry, it's a people business. So networking, building relationships is so important. And what I like to do, especially for newcomers, is to encourage them to reach out to people that are working in the industry, find some names that are working on the stuff they love, and reach out to those people through social media most often, and try to do some informational interviews where you basically just ask them some questions, just like you and I are talking casually right now, and get some advice. And then that's something you do as they might give you some more referrals and go, oh, you know what, I love your work. Now that I've seen it, you just shared your screen, you showed me some of your portfolio. Why don't you, I heard there's a production at Warner Brothers that's hiring, and they I think they need a assistant prop designer or whatever, talk to this person. And then, they give you a contact or two. So now you're doing informational interviews with a couple of other people. So you just kind of follow this kind of snowball, and as one way, to do it. And then go to events, follow up with people, try to get coffees, have virtual coffees, compliment and celebrate each other's accomplishments. It's a good way to keep in touch. Like, wow, we met at this industry event, and then I just saw your name was in Kid Screen magazine. You're on this new show. Congratulations, that's amazing. Really excited for you. I can't wait to see it. And then you give like a small update about yourself, and then that's just a great way to kind of stay connected with each other. And then there are job leads that are on LinkedIn. I see a bunch in my feed all the time, and I guess there's algorithms that kind of tailor it to like things you might be suited for. So wow. I see a lot of those like that are, I guess, things I might be suited for, and it's been helpful when I've looked for work. And you can also search job listings on LinkedIn, and those, I haven't used those apps that you're talking about, but I certainly wouldn't discourage it. I think wherever you find listings popping up, it's great to apply. So my other advice on that, so when these listings pop up where you don't know the person, you don't know even the studio in some cases, obviously do some research, like learn about who they are, what they're doing. Is it something you even want to work on or work with, or people you want to work with? And if it's true, it's good to, if indeed you want to apply, it's good to have a resume ready to go and a cover letter ready to go, but not just one resume or one cover letter. Like that's your base version. And then you're going to customize it for the opportunity. So like you could be someone who does storyboards, layout, design, character design, and you've been hired to do all three. So when you apply to a storyboard job, you need that resume and cover letter or whatever that features storyboards, that doesn't make that like paragraph 4, right. Or like, and I've seen people make that mistake, and then they just, well, here's my resume, here's my, and they just, the person will find it. They'll find that I do storyboards. They won't, they're only going to look at what you call yourself on top, storyboard artist. And they'll only look at, that's like you're featuring that as your most relevant job experience. You have to always reshuffle that resume, and probably that cover letter too, if you include one, that customizes it for this particular opportunity.
Loving that. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the one interesting thing I've seen where that's always the question, like, well, how do you start? And how does like, you just kind of do. It's like you're like hanging around like-minded individuals, or as Mark Simon was talking about the whole thing with networking, people hire who they know and trust. And if who they know and trust aren't available, they ask who they know and trust, who do they know and trust?
That's a good point.
So, coolness.
Yeah.
So, I have my favorite question to ask is, given the advances in the availability of software and technology, as well as the current state of our industry, there has never been a better time in the history of animation for 2D animators to put out their own projects and products than there is right now. True or false, and why?
Gosh, it's true. Yeah, there's never been a better time. And like the way it used to work is you had your own like work on a portfolio, or your samples, however you presented them in an in-person interview. And then it switched to kind of a website where you have your work and it's organized, and people still do this, right? You could still have your own URL, and where they can come and see your work, like your page, like the way you want to present yourself. And then the other way is like some of my favorite things every day, multiple times a day, I'll go into Instagram and I'll just see, the latest published work from these different indie designers, comic artists, different cartoonists that are sharing web comics, or just daily illustrations, or whatever they're outputting, and it's amazing stuff. And I'll look at it, and I've hired people just from that in my feed, where I'll reach out and go, wow, this person's incredible, and I'll start like searching for them on Google, find their page, and then I'll realize, oh, they worked on a Cartoon Network show too, or so I'm discover they might even be industry people, and I'm discovering them through their personal published work that's going directly to the audience. I'm not finding them even just by loving I'm not like finding them by loving Cuphead on Netflix and going, oh, I got to see who paints the backgrounds. Let me wait to the credits. I'm finding it in a roundabout way, and then I can, connect with them. The playing field is so level in terms of getting your work out, like having a steady output, showing your work evolving, developing in public, and letting people find you. And it's just incredible. And I wish that was around, when I started my career.
Yeah, it's like I was listening to, I believe his name is Myron Golden, but he's a businessman who was talking about how there used to be the permission age, where it's like you had to, if you wanted to write a book, okay, let me submit this if you want to do this. And he said, but that age is now gone, which is like, and no offense to anyone who loves or watches or works on things like American Idol. He's going, but I don't understand why that show is there, because the permission age is gone. It's like you don't need anyone's permission to do that. So I think that's really cool, where there's no gatekeepers, as it were. Put out your own thing. I'm happy about it, where it's really that way now. I was still teaching college when YouTube first came out, and teaching in an art school, and people who are doing videos and stuff. Hey guys, there's this thing called YouTube. You can put stuff on there. You don't get anyone's permission. I think this is the early days of nothing but cat videos. I'm like, just put stuff up there. And it was so new at the time. I remember my class looking at me like I had 3 heads. And I'm like, no, do this thing.
Oh yeah. And the thing I would say in defense of the gatekeepers is, hey, I'm glad that they're less important in terms of like tastemakers. But what is interesting is the gatekeepers are still there, but they're also using social media to find these self-published dynamos who are breaking all the rules, doing it on their own terms. And then the gatekeepers are like, hey, who's this great person? Come on in and pitch us, or
Yes.
and so the gatekeepers are then partnering with these bubble ups, who are just doing things, with no one stopping them. And right. it's a great collaboration, why not?
Yeah. If I don't know if y'all are connected yet, but I definitely want to connect you with one of our other guests. And I refer to him as politely as possible. I said, this Samuel L. Jackson expletive. This kid is 19 and kicking so much butt right now. Wow. And he put out his own little show on YouTube, like made himself a showrunner, and I'm like, really, dude? And I saw his work because, again, somebody else was sharing it, and I'm like, wow, that's a really cool style. I'm like, can you do character stuff? And yeah, well, that's another conversation where I see, and I know I did this starting off, where you price yourself way lower than what you should be doing. But that's another story. We'll talk later. But yeah, I definitely want to introduce you to him. Okay. My last question for you. What do you think is stopping animators or artists from creating their own employee-owned, let's say, channel or streaming platform, if anything?
Gosh, I think what's preventing them is probably life or, responsibilities of like earning a living and all those things that get in everybody's way, right? Like, but I think it's also not suited for everybody. So that's the other thing. Like, it's almost like here's the problem with art school right now, or for the last 30 years. Like, you go in, to your 4-year degree program, you make a graduate film, graduation film, a thesis film, and you're supposed to be this auteur, right? You're supposed to be like a person with a POV who's going to write, design, direct, animate and produce this film. And it is a great opportunity to do that. And but not all of us are going to keep doing that, in our careers. We're not all going to be that, auteur, or that a person, Gendy Tartakovsky or Craig McCracken or Penn Ward, and there's a million folks, or
Lauren Faust,
that have this like POV that could show run and tell stories in a way that no one else is telling them. So like, but the people that are or can, why not start a channel? Why not, put up your work that's unique, that deserves an audience, that where you can build a body of work on your own terms. But I don't think everyone should feel that pressure like, hey, YouTube exists, so where's your channel, and how come you're not feeding it your own creation weekly, with a weekly release? It's just not what everyone is best suited to do. But if that's something you think, you want to be a part of, then find your counterparts, find that person who's the great producer, find that person who's the great storyteller. And if you're an incredible workhorse who's got a brilliant, style, who can bring those things to life, like find that 3 to 5 person team, and that if you're hungry to do that, realize your strengths and find the missing strengths to what could get you there, and then pool your resources together. I think then if more people did that, they'd have a better chance of it working out, and they could become, that's like the Disney studios of tomorrow, could be built like that.
Loving that. I think of a lot of times where I know, like in like attending art school, we always had people who were like really working on stuff and putting like getting ready for a drawing class.
Yeah.
And then you had the people that did stuff maybe 5 minutes before class and then would talk a really good game. And so I was like, and I was telling my students, I said, yeah, those people who are always annoying you, yeah, they're going to be your boss because they know how to talk the game. Like you got to get those people in along with
there's a place for them. You're right. That's very, very diplomatic of you to like to see that skill that they have.
Well, yeah, it's like that is your gift. So, thank you again. This has been awesome, and I love these questions because it's like everyone answers them just a little bit different. Like, ooh, that is a really cool thing.
Oh,
So, right. So this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with Mr. David Leap. Excuse me, do I call you David or Dave?
Both are good. Either one.
Both are good. Okay. With hanging out with Dave Levy, and this has been awesome, dude. We got to do this again. I'm planning on doing a podcast, so I've got at least 5 other conversations we could have.
I would love that. Just ask anytime.
Awesome. So signing off.
All right. Cheers, Tony.
Hey, this is Tony Ross for. Damn it! I almost did it again. It's not TonyTeach.com. Sorry. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I'm hanging out with my buddy, Miss Elisa A. Lewis. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So I think we met, I want to say this is years and years ago. We were going to one of those little animator luncheons. And it was on Cheshire Bridge. And I think we were on the same bus. And I kept looking up, and I'm looking on, I think I was looking on, was it Facebook at the time? Or was it, what is that, MySpace or whatever? I don't think it was MySpace. Anyway, but I'm looking at her, I was like, that kind of looks like that lady that's in the thing. So it's like, and we're like walking to, I was like, okay, maybe that is her. It's like, okay, do you know where we're going? And so it's like, hey, anyway, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, it's been a long time, now we have this before the pandemic and after the pandemic. I haven't seen you since, after the pandemic.
Yes, you have not. So, one, who are you? Why are you here? What do you do?
Hi, everyone. My name is Elisa A. Lewis, and I'm in animation. I've been in the animation industry for a little over 16 years. I started out as an animator working in television on shows and on commercials and music videos. And I transitioned into more project management and running my own company, and even rolled into recruiting for a bit. Now I own my own company, My Animation Life. We're an animation solutions company. In short, we make animations and we help people get into the animation industry. So if anyone is looking to have a project made or to get help finding a job on a project, that's what we handle.
Sweet. And by the way, I love the fact that you're doing that. Both you and Ginger were inspirations for me doing the summit in your own ways. Ginger, when I actually got to see one of the CEPA's first little conferences that they did, festivals, animation festivals, conference, one of those. But I actually got to see that in action. I was like, holy crap, this is actually possible. It's cool to do. And the second thing was me, you, and Tony Grillo we're at a bar, we're having wings. I don't think you were having wings because
No, I don't eat wings.
You don't eat wings. Anyway, so Tony and I were having wings and we were chatting and talking back and forth. And you mentioned the concept of My Animation Life at that point. And then I looked up later and it's like, holy crap, you actually did that. And it was like, because we all have ideas, but to actually run with it is incredible. So thank you for your inspiration. It's like you're inspiring people and you don't even realize it. So thank you. I'm curious, what are we going to be talking about today? Technically, I already know what we're talking about, but
yeah.
Tell our audience, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and your animation career. So AI and your animation career.
Awesome. So should we be, I don't know, is this like a flash in the pan? Is this going to be like that little, what is it, non-fungible or whatever, or NFTs?
I will go ahead and tell you the dirty secret behind the scenes is I have a presentation. My laptop is right there, and that helps me make sure my information is organized so I don't ramble, because I have a bad habit of rambling on. So I have that there, but this can be a conversation. I just want to talk more about the changes that are happening in the industry and how it could affect you.
Okay. Definitely. So I have a mixed relationship with AI, I think. For me, because I do a lot of training with Adobe products, and they've had little content aware things and feeling. They've had it for years, even before these recent conversations where people have been talking about AI. Like, I remember when Photoshop first came up with content aware, then they improved on it. And then several years ago, they said, we're going to make content aware for, what was it? After Effects. So there are three people walking on a beach. You don't want that third person. Go ahead and select them in the video and just make them disappear. And so, yeah, I've been kind of using and teaching that now. And now everyone's like, oh my gosh, AI. It's like, yeah, it's been around for a minute. So I'm still weary of the art part of it. I use it. I know I've used it a lot for the summit, where I was a little angry because I made an announcement with my own writing about the summit's going to be this coming at this point. But I also used AI to write us. Can you write like a 240 character announcement about the summit? And a sweet Elvis, that thing has been like everyone keeps sharing and resharing. And I'm like, great, damn it. And so it's like, I don't know if it's random or if it's like it just worded it better than I could. So again, love-hate relationship. So how do you feel about it?
I have mixed feelings as well. I am aware that AI has been around. Until I took Google's Generative AI 101 course, I really didn't understand how much information I personally have been feeding AI for, the last 10 or so years. So that was eye-opening. And I've been using it in ways that have definitely helped improve my life, like with talk to text and with reading my my books for me, my PDFs for me, in my art as well. So I feel like I've used it without really valuing and understanding where this information and where this assistance was coming from. But now there's this fear, and I feel like, okay, stay with me.
Okay.
We've always had this, right? We've always had these technological changes. We've had digital cameras come out. Everyone has access to it. Photographers are like, oh no, I'm going to get paid less. True. But people who really have the skill, they still can charge top dollar because they have all the lighting understanding, the composition, the posing. They have all that understanding that the average person doesn't have. But what's different now than something like the digital camera versus when people had to pay photographers is the sampling aspect. I think that's what caused the fear for me, was seeing artists' work just get stolen, their names are mangled in the artwork, and then have it sent out where people can have access to it without any permission or compensation to that artist. That's the aspect of AI that's really made me uncomfortable.
There's and I think that's not only in art. They've been doing it lately with music and different musicians, and some musicians and vocalists who are here with us, some who have gone on, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. So for me, it's what is it? Our running gag is I'm older than you thought I was. So for me, there was a show, I want to say it was called Square Pegs, that happened in maybe the early 80s. But basically on that show, there was a supercomputer. There's this music company that kept finding all these lost albums, but there was a computer that could emulate and create that person's voice. And so when I started seeing that happening, I'm going like, oh my gosh, this is what we were worried about. Like there was no way of really doing it way back then, because it was kind of, science fiction esque ish. So, but seeing that now, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's certain artists that I would absolutely love to hear, or that people that have gone on. It's like, okay, part of me is going, I'll just say there's this, if you know anything, you know who I'm probably talking about, but I have this, I'm a ultimate fanboy over this certain musician, superstar that passed away. And I watch their videos and I'm going, okay, if we could get AI to kind of fuse all their dance moves in and make this new version of it, and we can, almost have and just let people know, yes, this is, sample from all these different things, but have that Las Vegas experience that I would pay to go sit and just watch. I'm like, it's like, that's where my brain is. And the other part of me is going, don't do that. It's going to be bad. So I don't know, but I'm rambling.
I think I know who you're talking about.
You probably do.
Yeah. I think that's enough hints. I mean, who else would you want to see sing and dance?
Well, so there's a big argument on that. There's that person versus the other person. There's it's as bad as Mac versus PC or Star Wars versus Star Trek. So, but again, if you know anything about me, I'm just going to say that all the lower thirds that I use in the summit are usually purple. So I'll leave it at that. Anyway, so where are you with respect to? I don't want to even call it the name of the company. There was a company that did. They took video and then say, "Hey, we can now make anime just from live video."
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that was, yeah. Again, love hate. Because it was like, wait, what? So I want to stop asking questions. That I should just let you just go for it and figure out where your brain is on that.
Yeah, I saw the animation. I love any kind of experimentation. I love that they are taking their own steps towards creating something animated. Anytime somebody joins the animated forces, I'm excited. Great. More people in the family. I feel like it's more motion capture, it's directly taking emotion and then putting characters over it, and then you're going to tweak. An animator really works with acting and physics. So they understand how things work. They understand the natural laws of planet Earth, when to bend them, when to break them. And that is similar to the camera analogy, where you've got anybody with a digital camera versus someone who really understands the concepts behind photography. And it's the same thing with animation. You've got open source platforms. Anyone can animate, anyone can take their face or their emotions and put a character over it. But an animator understands how to portray that in a way that the audience will receive it as an illusion of life, and not just a replication of whatever action they're making at that time. I like that animation. And I think that there is room in the future for that platform and for those processes to improve. But I am not so much concerned about that. I think it's great that people have access.
Okay. So, um, where do you see AI helping, I don't know, independent animators or small studios? Do you see it helping more or harming more, or is it kind of 50-50?
It's a mix, because 2022, we saw so many layoffs. I think it was more layoffs than 2021. And the art and entertainment industry had the biggest rate of layoffs last year. We had the 3%, so that's the highest rate, and it's only climbing. We are a luxury service. If you're working in entertainment, I'm sorry, we're not doctors, we're not firefighters. And so people drop that quickly. I think it's important that when we're thinking about whether something's going to help or hurt, that we think about our positioning. How do we position ourselves in a place where we are more useful and we add more value to people? As we're seeing rates of employment drop in the United States, we're seeing rates of employment increase in countries where it doesn't cost as much to create art and entertainment and animation. An example is India. India saw a surge in employment while we saw a huge drop and lots of layoffs. So I think it's important when artists in the entertainment field are thinking about how it's going to hurt. Number one, it's going to hurt if you only can do your skill. Like that one thing, you can only make characters, you can only do backgrounds, you can only rig, you can only do that. And somebody in another country can do it for less, or even worse, if the computer can do it faster and better than you can, then you're in trouble. But if you can compound your skills, let's say you can use your skills you already have in character design and your eye for character design, and combine it with the ability to create prompts for AI so that you can do it faster. Your eye plus the tool is going to be stronger than somebody who just has the tool or somebody who just has the skill. So if you're able to make AI work for you, or get ahead of AI in ways that it's not able to create work or to add value to our projects now, like your people skills, if you're working on production, if you know how to do creative direction, those skills are still in demand. So I think it's not so much artists being concerned about whether their role will be phased out, and more so whether they specifically will be phased out because they're not competitive anymore.
Nice. Okay. loving that a lot. Um, it reminds me of like people were talking about that what jobs are no longer a thing. I think when I was in college, they were talking about we had these guest speakers come in and talk about there'll be a time where you can go to the record store and then tell them what songs you want on your and they'll burn the CD for you with it. And we're like, and at that time it sounded so crazy. And they were talking about, well, yeah, and like for instance, there's no longer going to be worried about trucks delivering the CDs and everything like that. And now we're at the point of what's a CD, what's a DVD. So it's, I think, tricky and interesting, like all the different things, like even in what is that graphic design, where there used to be typesetters and uppercase and lowercase referring to the fact that there were trays of letters and all this craziness, and everything keeps shifting. But I think the weirdest part, for me, at least from the outside looking in, ish, is where the larger companies and the people who actually, or the people who actually hold the money, are dictating what's happening. A lot of stuff. I know for me, and I didn't expect it to, but it did. When I first heard about, like, oh my gosh, there's all these different things here, these strikes are happening here and everything like that. What I wasn't expecting was it to actually even hit the education aspect of teaching animation. And I was like, wait, what? Because I was like, oh wow, so-and-so's out of a job. Man, that sucks. So-and-so's out of a job. Man, that sucks. And then, for instance, right now where I do a lot of contracting for teaching for Toon Boom, and I know it was like weird, like the amount of teaching that I usually do, I think I'm doing maybe 10 or 15% of what I normally do. Because the class is just kind of like, what? I was like, whoa, what the hell? So I can definitely get that whole scary thing, because yeah, it's the money aspect of it, but it's like, what flavor do you even go with? There's like, because not every AI is, well, the same. Do you have any, without actually, if you're comfortable with it? I'll tell you the AI I mess with, if anything, I mess with Google's Bard, but I use it for writing and like helping out with stuff like that. And I did that mainly because it's Google and they own the internet. So if they're going to strike anything, they won't strike the stuff that they're writing, maybe. So that was my logic. So where are there new things popping up? Is it I haven't dug enough into it to find out. Is there already, hey, this is the one that most people use for animation, or oh, we can use any one of them?
There are a lot of AI programs that people can use, but I think the biggest thing is not to neglect the programs you already use, because like we talked about, Adobe products have AI integrated into a lot of the software. I think if you already use something, expect for there to be some form of AI in it. So it doesn't mean you have to run out and learn something brand new. You can stick with what you've got and then, wait for them to have their AI or catch up with their new AI updates. But if you don't have anything that you use currently, I have some examples. Hold on. If you are exploring Midjourney, that's incredibly popular right now. There's Runway, which is awesome, especially for animators. Vyond, and it's Vyond. That one is like, that's great for beginners. If you've never touched professional software before, I would say Vyond is something you should try.
Okay. I just saw that, what was it? Illustrator added like generative fills and different things like that. Allegedly, if I understood it correctly, Adobe's trying to do a thing where if it pulls from certain artists, then those artists actually get compensated or something weird. Which I think is I think that's the right way to go. And don't get me wrong, there's I love the idea of mixing concepts. I'm constantly doing this when I have artists working with me, like my illustrator friend Chris Cartledge, will I'll say, draw me a stereo system mix Parliament Funkadelic with Dr. Seuss, or if I tell my voice artist friend Mr. DeMarcus Hill, who's actually on the summit, if I say, I don't know, mix Keanu Reeves with Michael J. Fox, make him 16 years old, and he can spit that back. That's an actual video. I'll send it to you. So it's like, but the idea of doing that, I'm used to, or artists are constantly used to, hey, can you do it in this style? Or what's popular now, especially because of Cuphead, can you do a 1930s, 1940s style thing? Where I'm not, it feels weird and or cheating. Like, what's the difference with telling an artist to do this versus telling a computer to do it? I think because the computer is taking or borrowing elements, not just looking at that and going, okay, let me see if I can draw my version of that. It's, hey, let me take this exact thing. That's what it feels like. So I guess that's where the difference is. Your thoughts?
A bit. I mean, I see artists who will literally trace over something, switch the face out, and follow the rules of any show, pull their style guide, and recreate something. If you go to Fiverr or some other place, you can find artists saying, I'll draw characters in this style or in that style. And it's stealing. It's stealing someone's art. When we talk about copyright infringement, we should even talk about cosplay and how that's infringement as well. Stealing is so ingrained in our industry. But the issue right now, I personally feel, is that it doesn't involve people, that nobody's actually getting money for it, and that credit is not being given where it's due, especially in the case of having someone's signature mangled. I think that's the worst. That's the biggest slap in the face, is having your signature still there.
Wow. I hadn't even heard about that, because I heard you saying, I thought you were talking about signature style, but no, their actual signature.
Physical signature still in there, mangled. You can't tell who it is, but you can see the signature.
There was a oh my gosh, this is, again, I remember when it first happened, there was a way to, I want to say it's 10, 15 years ago, maybe more, when they first started placing digital watermarks into your work. So even if somebody, because people would go, oh, I'm going to borrow this and just kind of work on it. But it was like, even if you took like a 10 pixel by 10 pixel area, it would go, hey, you borrowed from this particular thing. I think that they're working on stuff similar to that, where you can go, yeah, don't put me into this, into your.
You can opt in and say that you don't want your work put in. You can upload your work into different cloaking sites that will watermark, as you were stating, your work. There are ways to do that. But then again, technology is moving so fast, there are also ways around it.
Yes.
It's important to really figure out a long-term plan for us, what's considered ethical. And we do need to go back in time and think about the unethical things we've done and try to rectify those things as well.
Nice. Curious. How has, if you're willing to share this, I'm curious, how has AI helped you versus not helped you?
AI has helped with automation for me. There's a lot of behind the scenes, like humdrum office things that I have to do to run a company, and I don't like doing them at all. And I don't even like hiring for them, because then I have to learn about them enough to choose the right candidate for it. And then I have to supervise that candidate. So it's so much easier for me. I think about the fact that TurboTax allows you to do your taxes online instead of having a tax accountant. That has helped a lot. Now, what if you had something after TurboTax? You had something that automatically took your expenses and put it into your tax forms, so you didn't even have to open up TurboTax. That sounds incredible. At least to me, it sounds incredible. And being able to do things like that with some of my like administrative work has been incredible. Also, my concept work. I normally have to go through so much concept before I can even contact an artist, because I want to have some sort of direction for them. It definitely lowers the cost if you don't have to pay artists to think as heavily when creating work. So if you give them some boundaries, you give them some guidelines, you can shorten the amount of time that they have to work on the project, which means you also are reducing the amount of cost that that project is in phases that won't even show up in the final work. So I love it for concept work as well.
Sweet. Like I said, my thing is, yeah, I hate loathe. I just want to create. I don't want to do the social media thing. I don't want to do this other thing. That's like, I just want, and I'll use the summit as an example. Almost every year, I feel like if there's a tweet that went out about the summit, it's because I was typing it while the summit was going on. It's like, instead of like automating it and going, and this is even before AI, it's like, I know how to do a freaking automation. I should do this. It's like, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to. And just to be able to go in and true story, I went in and I said, can you write me like, give me, I don't know, 13, 100, 100 or 240 character post about the summit. It starts on this date. This is the date it is currently. And I was looking over and damn it, I hate those. The one thing I do hate, when I was trying to use it for class stuff, I was, because you do have to double check what it's writing. I remember going in and seeing stuff that it's writing, and I'm going, okay, where did you pull that from? What colleague of mine did you pull that from? Because that's not me. You're, writing certain things, and I'm going, let me readjust that. Then there's like, I think my wife was telling me the trick of getting AI to write something and then using another piece of AI that actually makes sure that it's not written like anyone else's, so it'll kind of paraphrase stuff. It's like, so the weird thing like that. And on a personal level, I think we all suffer from some level of imposter syndrome. One of the things it said, because I was talking about having a write out a description for a premiere class I was going to offer, and in the description that AI wrote, it said, this video editor with 20 plus years experience. And I found myself going in and going, I have 20 plus years experience teaching, and then it was like, I heard my little inner voice go, you realize you do edit all of your tutorials and you edit the summit every year, right? I was like, oh, I guess I do know. Okay, never mind. So it was like it was like that weird thing of like, doing that. And my last little weird spiel on that is telling AI to write my affirmations for me. True story. It's like my therapist told me that, like, I'm suffering from, what is it? I have a fear of failure and a fear of success at the same time, which is like annoying. But I was like, let me play with this. Hey Bard, can you write me out 12 affirmations about against the fear of success? Oh, and by the way, write it in bro dude speak. It's like, and it did it. And I'm like, this is scary as hell. It's like, you are a badass. You can do this. It's like, oh my God, this is awesome and scary. So I'm like, I don't know. What's the next step? Do you think? Is this going away? It's just going to get bigger, scarier? Are we going to Skynet yet? What's going on?
We're on the train. The trains are moving. So, I mean, you can either jump on or I guess lay on the tracks, as some people have chosen to do. I feel it's really important for people to understand how AI works, like fundamentally how it works. Google has a great free teaching course on Gen AI and how it works and the background and how it relates to other things like machine learning. I encourage everyone, please, to watch it. If you don't fully understand AI, then it will be a little bit more challenging when it comes to applying it to your career, because you need to know the movement. Similar to when you go to animation school and you learn about the history of animation and you learn the timeline and the movement of animation. I remember being in school and learning about trends, hiring trends, in 2D animation and in 3D animation and in experimental animation. And being able to understand how trends work helped me in tracking new trends in the industry, not just hiring trends. And when you start understanding how AI works, you can think, how am I going to start applying it to my character design, my background design, my production management, because you'll understand where it's going to go, at least for your role. I also think it's important that you start playing with it. If you haven't touched it, touch it. It's not hot. It's not lava. Touch it and start trying to implement it in your pipeline. I don't use it in my animation pipeline as much as I should. I use it more in my photography retouching and in my character design work, in my layout work, in my background work. That's what I use it mostly for. So even if you're not going to use it directly in the skill set you are like most known for, start using it somehow so that you understand the changes. Think about social media. Remember how MySpace and Facebook used to be and how it's changed so much? If we go back in time, like 10 years ago, and we say this person who just started using Facebook should now use a new, like 20 millionth version of Facebook, it's going to be challenging for them. So just so you don't get left behind and you understand how the thinking behind the programs and the platforms are going to start working, integrate it into some aspect of your art, not just your like administrative work or your daily life and budgeting. Yes, that's important, but understand how it's going to apply directly to your career. And please, please, please post your progress, because we are in the dirty years, you know, where you can post your ugly artwork and no one's going to judge you because everyone's learning.
Love
But
it.
like a year or two from now, when everyone is fantastic and you're still garbage, it's not going to be so passable. And you're going to be embarrassed to show your work because you're going to be so far behind from your peers. So please go ahead, start making your work, start posting your work, let people know you understand AI and you're talented in whatever field that you're talented in. I think that'll push you a lot further than the people who are either holding out and laying on the tracks or not posting any work because they're barely using it. I think you'll also build community with other people who understand AI. Think about the jobs that are opening up. We talk so much about jobs that are closing. Think about the new jobs that are opening up, the new fields, the new opportunities that involve some sort of prompt engineering or some sort of coding or some sort of direction with AI in it. If you become a part of that community, just like you became a part of the community of artists who are going into the workforce, now you have peers who can recommend you. You have peers that know your skill level. You have peers that are invested in your journey and want to support you. But if you never join that community, then you don't have those peers. So that's the biggest thing I can say.
I am loving that. And now you're giving me homework. Thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome.
So, if I have one other thing to question, and I say this a lot when I'm especially when I'm teaching After Effects or something like that, I'll tell people like that it's my job to make you question everything you see on TV from now on. Like it's like or in Premiere, we'll grab all these different shots of deer running outside in the winter and everything like that, but then we add snow, and it's like, yeah, all that stuff. None of that happened. It's like, so I think that's the weird gray area as far as that. So I'm curious, in this era of what's real, what's not real, what's fake, what's not, what's fake news, what's not fake news. We were chatting earlier about the idea that there's already AI that'll go in and make it look like you're staring at the camera, or looking at the camera when you're on.
The camera to be like, no, she's paying attention. Imagine how schools are going to be, Tony. You teach. Imagine students looking straight at you, but really they're on their phone.
And the sad part is, they've already started doing something similar to that, where people not even where they'll record themselves for a while, just kind of yes, no. and they don't even have to quote unquote be there. It was even when during the lockdown time that parent walked in and their kid was kind of sitting on their bed reading a book or something. This class, why aren't you in class? Like, I've got a picture up here, and dad, she hasn't noticed. Like, it's like, you're going, that is like hilarious. But I apologize. My kid thinks I'm talking to her. Just popped up like, no, talking about other stuff. But yeah, I think I don't know. I'm still anxious, and then maybe it's the fact that I'm anxious about everything. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's good reason to be anxious. There's so much change and so few people who really know where it's going. Feel, of course, the people at the top have more insights than the people at the bottom who are just receiving whatever has been created. I encourage people to climb a little bit higher than they are right now. If you're at the bottom of the totem pole and you're just the person who is dealing with the aftermath of all the changes, just take one more step up. Be someone who creates influence. Similar to you, Tony, you're out here putting out information. You have your own courses. You are a thought leader. That's another level up. And I encourage people to start stepping up a little bit, become a thought leader, become someone who, similar to that animation that we just kind of poked at a little bit, where they used motion capture and put characters over themselves to make an animation. Those people are blazing trails. They are making a way for the next set of people to create productions using similar processes. And no matter what opinion people have of the final result, what they created, they are setting themselves above the rest and becoming leaders. And so I think it's important that no matter what skill you have, if you want to not have to charge as little as some countries that we're competing with, that you start climbing. There is going to be the train or the wave coming, and you can either be above the water or you can be under it. Everyone has to make their choice. I can't tell you what to do with your day and what to do with your time, but I can tell you what I do with my time. And in between my work and in between cooking and living my life, I do try to make sure that I'm not going to get swept away. So that's the only thing I want to say.
Loving that.
Mm-hmm.
So, where can we find out more information about you? And is even on My Animation Life, is that something that you started asking people, hey, do you have any experience with AI, or is that something you've introduced yet? Or,
you know what, Tony, I haven't asked them. I just assumed it was no. It's not great. It's not great. It's not polite at all. My apologies to the masses. My apologies. We have courses that are coming out. We do a reopening on October 28th, and it'll allow people to access information that they constantly ask for in a format that's a lot longer. As I said earlier, I have a tendency to talk a lot. I want to give you all the information I have. I want you to be as equipped as possible, but often I can't do that in settings that are, an hour or 2 hours, or even when I had 5 hours, wasn't enough time. There's so much information. And if you want to just grab a snippet of something, I think it'll be easier in a pre-recorded form. So that'll be available. That's the new big thing that we'll have. And you can also reach out directly to me at alisaalewis.com. I have my own website. I am hoping at some point I can add more of my travels. This has been more than 2 years of being a digital nomad. Right now, I'm in Geneva, Switzerland, and I am loving it. You see me with this wall behind me because I can't show you everything that's on the other side. It'd be distracting. And I want to help more artists not only get a job in animation or clients get their work done, but learn how to do it in a way that supports a healthy lifestyle, one that's less stressful, one that allows you to travel and spend more time with your family and do whatever you'd like to do. So those are some of the directions that we're going in. You can find me at alisaalewis.com and myanimationlife.com.
Awesome. I'm slightly ticked because I was like, we did the meeting about the meeting. You were in a different country, and I feel that was that last week?
I was in London last week. Yes.
You jerk. Okay. But sorry. I'm so happy for you. That's what I meant to say. That was my outside voice. It's like, yes, digital nomads. That seems. Ugh. That sounds incredible. And yeah, we got to talk about that. All right. I'm overdue for actually setting up an appointment with you anyway. I feel like you're my what is it, career therapist, if that's a thing. So it's like
New title, career therapist.
career therapist. Like,
It's better than counselor, which I feel is overused.
better than what?
Career counselor.
I would agree. Like career therapist.
Yeah.
It's like welcome. It's like to career therapy with Elisa A. Lewis.
Oh,
and your host.
Yeah, I want to be the career. What is it? Is it the psychologist? Who's the one who can give you drugs? Because I can give you a prescription for what you should do versus just listening.
Love it. It's like, okay, I'm like, I need to work on this project. Okay, take these magic mushrooms and
Oh, no, I'll give you my parents' remedy. Take this belt.
love it.
Trust me, you'll get so much motivation after. God. When you have immigrant parents, there's different motivational tools.
Yes. No, trust me. I have I did identify with that methodology. It's like my speaking patterns alone are the fact that my dad was very strict on, like, you will not speak this way. You will learn how to say things correctly. Yeah, yes, sir, I will. Anyway, this has been awesome as always. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to actually get to Switzerland anytime soon. Then you'll be gone by the time I get there. So we'll have to catch up. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with Miss Elisa A. Lewis. It feels weird to call you by your full name because it's like,
you should say it because I like it said like that. I was told that if you put the middle initial, you'll earn more money. And I'm going to take any help I can. I don't have a 4-letter name. I have to put the middle initial.
Okay. I'm loving that. Yes, I'm going to have to work on that. Say bye, Lisa.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me. I hope to see all of you later. Please friend me on LinkedIn. I always accept, unless you're selling me something. I always accept.
Love it. All right, signing off. Say bye.
Bye.
Da, 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 da. Hello. Greetings. So, I am currently in standby mode. Hopefully we will actually be having Mike join us soon because that's actually going to be live. And while I'm waiting, I need to pull up a file or three. I know this. Where? So yeah, I've still got to go through and look at a couple of things that Elisa was talking about. Mainly because it's a little, I think it's still very intimidating. I think we're learning anything, it's actually intimidating. But let's see if I can open this right. I think what is it between, I'm still trying to learn 3D, still have to learn Unreal. And in the middle of that, here we come with AI. I'm like, great, what else is there? Okay. It was nice having Elisa on the summit again. The details she said on how one could use AI responsibly were thought provoking. Yes. Because I love that it kind of also uh, piggybacked on something that Ginger said earlier. It's like we don't have an AI problem, it's a people problem. It's how people are using it. I was like, okay, that's a very valid point. So, while I'm waiting, I'm going to play around and show you all a trick or two. For those of you who have signed up for my workshop tomorrow, one, thank you, and I'll see you there. But I wanted to give everyone a little sneak peek into some things that I'm showing. And the argument that I had with respect to my Toon Boom fam is like a lot of stuff that they were teaching is like, it's cool that you have a character that has the little eyelashes and like there's a ballerina with little tendrils and little extra combs and spirals in her hair. And all of those you can animate. That's great. But before we dive in there first, there needs to be that really simple way of handling things. So what I figured out was one, just drawing this little stupid character to the point of there's no color, well, others in blue. There's no mouth or anything like that. And actually, it even starts off with one solid layer. But just grabbing this whole thing and where's that drawing? Distribute to layers, please. Thank you. So now everyone has its own layer. Turning on our light table so I can see what's going on here. And in the node view, grabbing all of this because that's a mess. Doing order node view down. So this is what I call the peacock. And this is actually so you can see things a little more clearly. So the idea behind getting organized. Let's see. I think AI backgrounds could be a good thing. Ish. What's the current thing that I know a lot of people in my line of work? I do a lot of explainer videos. So one of the big things that people have an issue with my clients, they'll tell me right off, yeah, the last person that did an explainer video for us just grabbed stuff off of freepick.com or places like pt2. And that's what I almost think about some of the backgrounds. I like the idea where Elisa was talking about this, as well as I believe Lamont Russ was talking about this. I wouldn't have a problem using it as a leap board or a springboard, kind of like, okay, this is where it's going to start. But how do I go from there? Okay, there's that little guy. Let me change the name. Oh yeah, let me not do this in the node view. Make this a little easier. Okay, you're going to be the front foot, I think, F-O-O-T. Front lower leg. And again, I'm just kind of showing you all a little thing here. I'm not going to do this whole piece because that's what the workshop is. So front upper leg. So what I'll show you is this. Let's grab these three guys over here. Whee! And I think I need a composite, Control H. Thank you. Hold down Mr. Option key. Let's pull you in here. And the idea of using composites, it's instead of having everything feed into the main comp, the way this is right now, like everything is feeding into this one composite. You end up having a comp for each appendage-ish. Let me double check. Did Mike show up yet? Not yet. Okay. Front leg dash comp. All right, so here we are. We have these three pieces, and then we would do something complicated like adding a peg, Command Shift P, to each one of these. And because I have the foot, but eventually I will need something that can control the foot and the lower leg. And eventually I want to have something that can control, well, the entire leg. This is where we add in those little, wow. I know the answer to this. Wow. Master pegs. I started to say mega pegs. It's not mega pegs, master pegs. Sorry. Long day. So I'll select the lower leg and upper leg. Just do Command Shift P. And the reason I'm setting these up early is because it's a lot easier, because a little bit of node view etiquette. These two pegs lined up means they would have the same pivot point, and they should. So the lower leg needs to be able to bend at a certain point, but if it's attached to the foot, it should bend at the exact same point. Now, double check one thing. What am I looking for? Okay, cool. So what I have here, let's grab Mr. Foot, grab our pivot point, zoom in, yes please. Where do I want that? Do I want the pivot point there? He's tapping his foot, yeah, that'll work. Cool. That's where that pivot point is. Now, where is the lower leg pivot point going to be? I think on this little character I've been placing it in a blank space. I can either do that or right at the top. So maybe in that little gap there. Someone once asked me, well, why did I build this, that the pieces are separated like this? Why weren't they joined? One, just kind of showing you that you can do that. Two, it's also just kind of really being forward with, yes, these are all separate pieces. There's absolutely nothing connecting them. Let's place you at the top there. Great. And the trick is, let me do this a little bit. We have our foot. Yes, that can move. However, we also need to have our little master peg here, which, by the way, let me change my type. MP. Do you have to change the type? No, but it's just kind of, again, node view etiquette. Pull another cable out, connect it to the foot. So from the foot, then here. Hey, that's both of them that have that pivot point. Or this guy by itself has that pivot point. And last but not least, let's grab the top leg that has its pivot point. Let's pull another cable out to here. So what the hell does this mean? It means, let me collapse this really quick. Let me stretch this out because I haven't built anything else, but it means that I can do the following. If I grab that leg, let's drop a keyframe there. And let's say that we'll drop another keyframe here. I'm going to rock that leg out. Shift B, come down the hierarchy. Cool. Shift B again. Don't be afraid to point that toe. Press B, goes up the hierarchy. And by the way, I know the rest of the body wouldn't even be standing that way, but it's not rigged. So we have that there. And maybe I'll do another little pose here. I'm doing it straight ahead and I should have been doing it pose to pose. Oh well. Let's copy this key. And the one thing that a lot of people don't do, I think they treat this stuff as if it's a, treat vectors like it's written in stone. You can actually distort stuff if you want. So let me add, I've got these little poses here. But let me press my plus key on my keyboard. 1, 2, 3. Sure. Select this next keyframe. 1, 2, 3. So what I have is okay. But yeah, Little fun stuff like that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Dude, did I lose Mike? What's up, dude? Alrighty. Let me open up a different file. I'm going to show one more thing, and then we might actually be zooming out early-ish. Well, I am going to give away stuff, but let's see if I can find something here. Let's see. Where the heck is that? Where? Oh, where? While we are waiting, I'm going to pull up something. Give me a little bit of room here. I was making this earlier, so pull some clips from earlier. Give me a moment, and in theory, we'll come back with some winners, or maybe Mike will pop back in. Give me one moment.
People who have a huge tablet in front of them, that is, and it's responding really well. And this is the other thing. I think this is, as I get older, there's certain practices I've definitely moved away from. I cannot do this. My neck is, the cartilage is gone. The discs are gone. It's just, 40 years of sitting in front of a computer like this has ruined them. So, you get, I don't know, maybe not 40, but yeah.
Shout out to, I want to do another name drop here because he's on the summit and this kid is freaking amazing. I'm trying not to curse. Charlie Falks.
Yes.
This Samuel L. Jackson expletive is 19 years old and kicking so much ass as character and then doing his own show running thing. And I'm going, how are you doing that? One, he hasn't been in the industry long enough for it to get jaded yet. So
I'm working on a series, Bloke of the Apocalypse. It's just a web series. I recently got funding for it, so that was very exciting. But it's comedy, but then it's also so it's two characters, and they're comedic, but it's also moments. I want to surprise the audience by introducing moments of severe horror and drama and just surprising audiences. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm just trying to find my thoughts. Surprising audiences and merging genres, I think, will really kind of elevate what's being made at the moment.
How can you take everything you're asked to do and make it benefit you? And that attitude will take you really, really far.
I'm loving that. And it's like every time it's like, I'm glad you're saying so many things that can help our audience / me. It's like,
the audience of one.
Yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. I did not create a summit just to ask people the questions that I want answers to.
Yeah, you did. That's exactly what you did. You know it. But that's what makes it great.
The other thing I've found is if you work towards making a 5-minute film, it normally becomes a 7-minute film. So 7 minutes is a really nice length. 5 minutes is even better. So if you shoot for a 3-minute film, it's probably going to become 5 minutes. And that's because when you get to animation, your film will start to breathe. So, there's a lot more room. So yeah, I would just try to keep it really simple.
And I once said to a leading games person who I respected a lot, and I respect people in games and all that, I said, who are your 9 old men of animation in games industry? Who are they? And they said, we don't have anything like that. You know, I don't know. I said, well, who's your number one animator? Who would you hire number one? I don't know, because we just get it done. You know, in games, as long as it moves, it's okay. And I kind of lost interest at that point. Not in the person. I never lose interest in people. But in that philosophy that, oh yeah, we just make it move and it's okay.
Yes, the mermaid is the most important. I want you guys to follow that. I hope you'll post links for it. Syrenka, Legend of the Warsaw Mermaid. We have a website, we have social media, because I was forced to, and I still update it every now and then. And it's really exciting because we got one grant, the Ontario Arts Council grant, on top of the crowdfunding campaign. So now, like, we're really kind of like, deep breath. Everything should go well when it comes to production, and we are just wrapping up pre-production. And soon we can get into like the meaty, gritty stuff of animating it. So please, if you do post the links, follow us, and go all other types of 2D animation, including Cuphead.
Lamont, Mr. Logan Russ, was joking about when I go from talking normal and then I'll go into my tutorial voice, which is a totally different voice. So I'm like,
it's funny, yeah. It's funny. There's a contrast. It's it's like your regular voice. You wouldn't even be able to get a cab. I need a cab. And then your summit voice is like, "Hello, how are you? Yes. I have violins and stuff in the background. I don't know."
Yes, how are you? Yes. Good evening and welcome to Tony's Corner. On this episode, we'll have Roger P. Funkel. He will be discussing his biopic and upcoming projects with the Philharmonic. Greetings. You'll enjoy it.
Sorry, I got carried away.
Have you ever wanted to rig characters in Toon Boom Harmony, but the node view scares the crap out of you? Well, I'm hosting a mini workshop that might just be what you're looking for. My name is Tony Ross, and I'm the owner and creator of TonyTeach.com, where we specialize in taking programs that have a steep learning curve and teaching them in a way that's really comfortable for beginners and novices to catch on to. So, on Saturday, October 21st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm hosting a 3-hour workshop where I'll show you how to rig a simple stick figure in Harmony Premium from scratch. This demo will go over working with the node view, using pegs, and basic parent-child rigging. In addition to this, I'll show you how you can save out a blank rig so you can attach your own artwork to it later. Now, this event is held online, but it is taught live, so you can ask questions during the demo as well as during the Q&A afterwards. Can't make it at that time? No worries. The workshop will be recorded and made available to all who signed up for the workshop. Though this workshop isn't free, it is actually cheaper than my hourly rate. So, this will be the first in a series of workshops, and I'll later be showing more complex things like working with deformers and even master controllers. But I actually want to start teaching people the very basics of working in Harmony Premium and how far you can go down the rabbit hole, which is creating your own animations. Seating is limited, so sign up today. Hope to see you there. Tony, it's been an awesome summit. Thank you. Thank you. It's been exciting. Like I said, every year it's kind of, I think this year's summit, it was like, it's going to be the 5th year. How do we do something bigger? Then midway coming up to this, is like, okay, am I going to even have the summit? Then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll just do 3 days. And then somehow still pulled it off. So, shout out to Lamont Russ for he was responsible for at least one of the pep talks I had on this whole thing. He was like, yeah, every year you say this, but somehow you pull it off every year. So Shout out to Lamont on that. Right. So I am apologizing. I'm guessing that Mike and I got our notes mixed, crossed, or something like that. I'll tell you all what, because I still have to go ahead and officially announce when the. I'll send out an email when the other pieces are coming out. When the give you all a list of the uncut. Sounds rated R. The director's version of all of the interviews will be a playlist on YouTube next week, as well as the playlist for this one. So let me do one last little thing here. That is not what I'm looking for. What am I looking for? Ah, there it is. All right, so I am actually working behind the scenes, typing stuff as we go here. So give me one moment and I'll come up with our winners. We have 2 Storyboard Pro licenses to give away. We are giving away 1 Harmony license and 1 Wacom 1 tablet. So if you're wondering why am I giving away 2 storyboards and just 1 Harmony, we did start off at the beginning of the week just giving away 1 Harmony, so we are kind of off center that way. All right, give me one moment here. Where? This is one of those things of like, Tony, why didn't you just figure this out last night and they'd already be ready? I don't know. It feels, I don't know, more like bingo to actually do this live. So give me one moment and I will get what I need. Let's see. Copying. That is not what I meant to do. There we are. So yeah, there are, I am again grateful for all of the people that actually were able to join us this year. And hopefully a lot of them I'm going to be actually following up anyway, doing the podcast, starting it up. Because the podcast, in theory, my Tony Teach podcast, will be able to feed into the summit. So I know Ollie and I, it feels like we only talk once a year. It's like family visiting or something. But hopefully we'll be doing this more frequently to, one, get to chat with some of the people I missed this time around, like, for instance, Kat Hudson or Joanne Lewis. Getting to actually chat with them and seeing what they're up to. I am talking and trying to do this at the same time without actually trying to keep playing, replaying videos. So, and if you're chatting with me, I'm not actually seeing what you're writing right now. So, not that I'm ignoring people. It's not what I do. Ah, there we are. No. What is that? 27. All right, one last little thing to do. And make sure I'm giving you the right information. Okie dokie. So I think I finally got this working right. Wait, hold it, thoughts. Looks like Mike actually might be showing up. So it's a fun thing about playing with what is that called? Time zones. Okay. Let me do this one thing here. Okay. Is that small enough, big enough for everyone? Day 5 winners. Okay. Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. We have, hold that thought. Mike's coming through. Hey, Mike. Hold on. Give me one moment. Da, 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 da. Mike, can you hear me okay? Let's see. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Tony.
Hello. I'm hoping we're not getting echoed. We'll see.
No, I'm not late, am I?
A little. But I figured it was a time zone thing.
I thought it was at 12:30 for some reason.
No worries.
I'm so sorry. For some reason in my brain I was thinking, oh yeah, 12:30. I'll be on with Tony. It'll be fine. And
by the way,
it was 11:30.
Yes. By the way, sound check. Is everyone coming through without an echo? Hopefully.
No echo on my end.
Well, yeah, that's the weird thing. Not Tony. Chris Georginas and I were doing a thing the other day, and we didn't hear an echo, but they heard an echo on Chris's. So, hopefully we got it solved. No echo. That is awesome. Great. So, okay.
Again, Tony, I'm so sorry. I did not. I totally flubbed the time.
Okay, no worries. Give me one moment, and let me give some prizes away, and then we'll go to yours. Okay, so day 5, we have Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. I don't know if there was a comma there, so it's either Jackson Ashley or Ashley Jackson. I don't know which one. Dennis Achola. And again, if I'm jacking up your names, my apologies. Toon Boom Harmony, we have Ayla Radies. And for the Wacom one, we're giving that away to Jamil Johnson or Johnson Jamil. I have no idea why it's putting in commas now, but those are our winners. And for the winners that were earlier in this week, if you're wondering, you haven't got an email, well, how do I get this stuff? I'll be sending those out this evening to everyone that's won during the week. Definitely on the Wacom winners, I am going to be needing your actual full address as to where they're going to be shipping that, because I don't handle those. Oh, and one last thing. I do have to say this. I'm not going to call names, but if I say, yes, you have won software, and you give me your information and I go, great, do not wait until months later to go, hey, I never got my software. Because then, I mean, don't get me wrong, because Toon Boom is really good about this, because I can go, hey, they're saying they never got that. But just kind of keep your ears and eyes out for your email. Always check your junk mail and stuff like that. I'll try to do a follow-up also once I know licenses have been sent out. So those are annual licenses. Toon Boom Harmony, by the way, does come in 3 different flavors, but this is for premium, so you'll be able to open up any level project. All right, I'm going to close that off. Alrighty. Mike, I think you can have the screen if you want. I think so. Let's see.
Okay.
How did we do this last time?
Share screen.
Huh?
Just share screen?
Yeah, if you can share your screen. Let's see. Give me 1 second to make sure I can get to that screen. Give me a sec. What am I looking for?
Again, Tony, I'm so sorry. I thought this was an hour later.
We're fine. Like I said, where's the... there we go. Got it. Sweet. So, it's your show, sir.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Mike Morris. I'm sorry if I'm a little late. There was some time difference changes. I'm out in California. Tony and I were talking about doing a thing. Tony, you still there?
I am still here.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. Because, I always like these to be more of a conversational than not. But we were going to do a thing about storytelling, drawings, and animation. And kind of a little bit about performance and acting. Because one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they get into animation, sort of, and tell me if you find this to be the case as well, Tony, that some people kind of gloss over the idea that they're entertainers, you know.
Yes.
But and sort of they become like technicians, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And unfortunately, that is just just a byproduct of the way that we work, because we're performing in slow motion, you know.
Yes.
So that sometimes we don't necessarily feel like we're entertainers, and when we're get more into the technical aspect of things as opposed to the emotional aspect of things, then I think that's when that sort of switch happens. And it's easy, you know, when you're just putting on headphones and you're just like, I just gotta clean up a scene, you know. But you know, when we're storyboarding and doing our key animation poses, especially like in 2D animation, we have to really think about, you know, what is those characters feeling, what are they thinking, what's in their heads when they're going on. Like, so what I brought here is a thing that I just did the other day. This is a very, very rough storyboard from my show that is on my Toon Boom Twitch. Excuse me, the show that I do on the Toon Boom Twitch channel called The Collaboratory. So this was our Halloween episode about two ghost starlets from the 1940s in an old motel that they both died at, and they're talking about being scary. And so if I can run through the board really quick, we start on the Dead End Hotel.
Okay.
And pan down to a poolside with these two ladies sitting there talking, and one of them's like, I don't even know what to do anymore. I try scaring people and it just doesn't work. I gotta give up. And she just starts kind of crying. And then the other one looks and, well, I suppose I could help you with your approach. And then she sips a drink that just goes right down through her and spills onto everything. She throws away the cup. All right, I'll help you. Let's see what you got. And she's like, really? You'll help me? And then, okay. And then she takes a deep breath and is, you know, gets her scariest face on. And then the other girl's just kind of looking at her like, oh, we got a ways to go with you. So first of all, lesson 1, you have to set the stage. Sometimes I like to give him a little bit of a demure, calm look, and then bust into Bwah! And she gets like all scary, and her hair goes everywhere, and you see that half of her face is kind of burned, and that's why she has her hair over the one side. And then the other girl just, oh, that's so great! Clap, 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 clap. And then you see that there's a pool man right there, and he just passes out and falls into the pool. And the girl claps again. She's like, all right, soon we'll have some company. So, you know, when you're approaching scenes, and you know, of course, this is a very, very rough storyboard. So by no means are these you know, great drawings by any stretch, but you can see where they have, like, you know, more of a gestural quality to them. But always be, you know, thinking about what are the attitudes of your characters. You know, what is their particular worldview. And I think that just goes along with general acting principles to begin with. But making sure that what you bring to the screen is something that people understand, you know, and understand in a way that makes them feel something. Does that make sense, Tony?
It does, yes.
Okay, good.
I did have a question.
Sure.
And I don't know if you're going to get into this, but
sure. I'm totally up for some questions.
Okay, cool. So here's my big question.
Okay.
Because I know there was a huge discussion at one point of people saying, or how much animation do you put into an animatic? How much is too much? And I got a little bit fanboy because I think we were having this conversation on Facebook, and Lauren Faust even chimed in, which I was just like, holy crap, she's actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Lauren's amazing.
Yeah, I'm still not over that. So anyway, hey, Lauren, one day I'll get to interview you maybe. So the concept was, how much do you actually put in there? I know for live action, you don't have to have a character walk across the street because everyone knows how to walk. But what's making me think
Do
of this
they
is,
though, Tony? Do they?
but yes, right at this scene here where she's moving her head back and forth. Is that, do you need to put that in there? Because what was it? The thing was, a lot of story artists, young ones, are putting so many drawings in and they're not being used, so they're burning out. So I'm trying to figure out, where is that fine line?
Well, I think oftentimes it depends on the needs of your production. And the reason I say that is some directors like less, some directors like more. You know, some directors practically like their boards animated. But my general rule of thumb is enough to make the action clear.
Okay.
So coming from a TV animation background, right? We rarely ever have a production that is in house, if there's any left at all. Well, at least here in the States. So we are trying to make boards as bulletproof as possible for an overseas animation studio, so that if there's mistakes that come back, they don't come back on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, if there's a mistake that comes back, then it's the fault of the animation studio, and therefore they pay for it, and not our studio saying, "Well, we just followed the boards." You know. So I think that it just depends on what kind of relationship the production has with its overseas animation studio, and how much that they can interpret correctly.
Okay.
So I think that's why we're trending toward more animated boards, because directors want to have their vision realized, and they want to see those performances put into the board. So a quick story. So I started out on The Simpsons back when after I got out of school in 2006, and I started in a job called character layout, which virtually doesn't exist anymore outside The Simpsons. So they would do essentially the key animation poses, and it wasn't necessarily animation poses; they were layout poses, and there's a difference. But some people were, trained key animators, and so they would do more of a key animation thing. I was probably one of those, and that just helped the animation turn out more like we wanted it to. Given that it had some good timing sheets on it. We had some very talented timers too, so that was great. But I think that process has kind of gotten shunted into boards in a lot of ways. So the more people understand the animation process and the layout process and put that kind of energy into their boards, I feel like the animation comes out better from an overseas studio. So I think that's why more people have, started putting more stuff into their boards, so that's more descriptive for the animation studio to get more of what they want. But that's kind of more of a character layout thing that's been shunted into boards, and not necessarily a boarding thing.
Cool.
So
I have a what's it? Secret sauce or secret recipe. In
well,
theory,
don't tell it on the air; it won't be secret anymore.
Well, it's a question, and you may or may not have an answer to this.
Okay, so you want my secrets then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. If you have them, or if you know where's the right place to look.
I'm an open book, bro. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So most quote unquote studios are sending boards overseas, right? In theory.
Well, I mean, so I think what we have is there's one place that I know. You're familiar with House of Cool?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, House of Cool is a studio that is really awesome. They are amazing board artists, but their whole thing is boards and animatics. So yeah, I mean there have been productions that have outsourced their boards to the scripts.
Okay.
But
So
on the whole, I think with major studios here in the States, they're still doing boards in the States.
Okay. Yes. So they're doing boards here, but the quote unquote animation I'm saying is usually overseas, right?
Yes, almost all.
Okay. So here's my question. Is there, you and I are old enough to understand what I'm about to state. Is there like a yellow pages of something that we can go, oh, how do I get my project made by this studio overseas? Or is that one of those things that's kind of closed mouth and kept, or do we just have to keep looking at credits?
I'm not sure if there is a yellow pages per se of animation companies.
Okay.
Not that I know of, but Tony, if you wanted to take that on, I'm sure it would be rather popular.
I'm sure it would too, because that's the main thing. Because with Love too, I have a lot of friends and colleagues that are doing these projects, and like that's, and then some people are even talking about, oh, I'm going to crowdfund. I'm like, but the studios they're going to, I'm going, you might not want to go here, because unless you're going with an individual, because I think even then they're outsourcing it, but still adding on their fees on top of that. At least my opinion.
So they're like almost like a broker.
Yes, it's like versus, hey, there's this studio, because we can complain all day about, I mean, America's good grief. Capitalism and spin and marketing is our those are our things. That's our red, white, and blue, and I'm sticking to it. So we actually go for where you can actually save the most money. So I could yell about animation being farmed out, or I can go, great. Let me figure out how to also get my stuff sent out. And in theory, maybe other people who are actually working on projects. So.
Well, I think that there is certainly a lot of overseas studios that are willing to take on work. It all depends on with if you've got the money to do it.
Yes.
And that's going to be the biggest thing, is if you can raise the money to do it. I know that there are a lot of little studios in Canada and France and other places that are sort of students banding together to make their own projects.
Yes.
And I think that's super inspiring. It's amazing what like the crew of Lackadaisy has done.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
With I got a little bit of a I follow an animator, Mary-Eve Lasselle. I'm pretty sure you know her, Tony.
The Bird Brain, yeah.
The Bird Brain, yeah.
Shout out to the Bird Brain if she's listening. Yeah, because I got that was the cool thing. Got to see her working on that behind the scenes. So shout out to two things: one, the Bird Brain; two, the people behind Lackadaisy to let us peer behind that curtain and see stuff. Like I learned a lot of drawing tricks because I teach the stuff. Teach harmony most of the time, but watching the way that Z was handling stuff on an actual production, I was just like, oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah. She's incredibly fast, which is amazing.
Yeah, she's ridiculously fast. By the way, Z's Mariev, her alter ego, Z Bird Brain's alter ego, her day job is like working at Toon Boom. Her story is pretty cool because a lot of people will go, well, how do I learn the software? How do I learn the Toon Boom software? It's very hard. She went to learn.toonboom.com. It's the site that's there, and went through and put stuff together. Yeah, the Learn portal. Went through all of the stuff and was learning it and putting stuff together and learned it well enough that she got hired by Toon Boom. So
that's awesome. Well, she's just really good at what she does. So
she is.
I'm not surprised that they saw that in her and said, yeah, we've got to get this girl on our team really quick. So that is really a great story.
Mariev, and I'm hoping that's her pet peeve. I'm going to call her Z because if I'm mispronouncing her name, she's going to let me know in detail. Z.
Yeah,
I've missed you for the summit this year, but hopefully I can grab you for the podcast now. I gotta, because yeah, she's hilarious, and extremely talented. So.
Yes, absolutely. So going back to a little bit of what we were discussing before, as far as performance goes in animation, I feel like there's, we kind of covered it, but let's delineate some of this out in a more tangible way. So I think the biggest things that one needs to consider in performance, and I'm just going to write this Blackboard style.
Okay.
Are, first of all, you have to kind of consider who that character is. And then you have to see like what, and you can show who that character is by a couple things. Movement. And when I say movement, it can be like, does this character move a lot? Right. Are they scatterbrained? Are they everywhere? Or does this character move very little? And that often indicates a position of power, and it's getting into the psychology of that character. Does this character feel the need to move a lot? Are they nervous? Are they relaxed and thus don't move a lot? The other thing is you can look to, I guess, general mannerisms.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's the school of acting that we all know and love. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name right now. Method acting.
Okay.
So method acting, and that involves embodying that character almost to an unhealthy degree. But then in that though, we find that we have certain characters that come out that develop their own mannerisms, right? We all have certain things we do. Some of us are hand talkers. Some of us are just, still, and all we do is look to the side and speak out of the side of our mouth or something, But in that, we can take a page from that school of method acting and develop mannerisms for characters. Sometimes there's going to be, if you're coming onto a show per se, let's go back to the Simpsons, right? Everybody's seen the Simpsons. We all kind of know what's going on. I mean, we know that when Homer has done something wrong, he'll go, "Don't!" And those shoulders go up and the head goes down and he clenches his eyes really, really, really tight. That's a mannerism. And those mannerisms develop and sometimes can become sort of quirks or tropes of a character.
Yes.
And sort of the thing that they're known by, almost like a, signature quirks and tropes. And then also we have to make sure that we're bringing through the voice performance. That we're following through on the voice performance. Because, and I see this more in video games than I see it in, traditional animation, in that the voice acting is tremendous, but that it's not followed through with an acting performance that matches it.
Ah, okay.
And I think that is kind of a travesty, Like there was some stuff that Conan O'Brien did on his Clueless Gamer talking about some Modern Warfare game, and this famous actor was on there, and he's like, "Look at those dead cold eyes," It's like one of the greatest actors in the world, and he looks like a fish, and just flopping around. And so, we have to make sure that the performances that we're doing match the voice track as much as possible. and let's see what else. I think learning good posing, right?
Right.
I think clarity in posing, and I think that goes back to a lot of like gesture drawings and observation. To be a good performer, you have to be a good observer. Would you agree with that, Tony?
I would agree with that. And as a slight segue, your characters reminding me of this a bit. I believe it was Bruce Timm that was talking about the way that he did the female characters in like the Batman the Animated Series, and then later, of course, Justice League and things like that. The
Right.
design behind it, where he said there are girls that there are also women who everything they do, no matter what it is, it seems like it's a dance. So you can almost catch them at any pose. Um, if they're eating, if they're walking, everything is just really well. That's kind of the pose that's there. It's like you can freeze it at any frame, and it works.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the way the weight and the shift, even in this pose here, and the hand is just very, very relaxed. It's just like you almost hear like "darling," you can almost hear that
Yeah.
just in this pose. And I'm like as one of those, I love and hate you right now, because this is really cool. I want to see this animated.
Well, Tony, if anybody on the show wants to animate this, then they're welcome to it. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I don't know. Maybe this is me, taking a jab at society at large, but I think we went from a more formal culture to a much more casual culture, and
Okay.
I think in doing that, we sort of lost that grace.
Mm.
I feel like we used to be a more graceful people on the whole than we are now because of the formality of our interactions, having been sort of reduced to a more casual thing, and that
Okay.
has its benefits. That has its benefits too. But I don't feel like we're producing the graceful people that we once did.
That it was a weird train of thought. I watch a lot of K dramas, and
Okay.
and hear me out. And they were talking. It was their
Okay.
work. There was a workplace, but they were chatting back and forth. And one of the underlings said to the manager, "Why are you being so informal with me?" And so they went from calling them Mr. So and so, and they started exchanging, talking first name back and forth. And the manager was just like, "Oh my gosh, I've lost my respect already." And I was thinking like, "Oh wow, we don't have that at all." It's like it was that
Yeah.
weird little thing.
Yeah. But I think people command respect in different ways now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with sort of status, and I think that's why some people get so caught up in status.
I can
But
say that.
again, that speaks to character, right?
Right.
You could have. I mean, I've seen things where they have like the. I mean, have you ever watched Undercover Boss?
I have. Yes.
Okay, and you see that like this person, when they're by themselves and when they're normal being interviewed, they have a much more commanding presence
Hmm.
because they're like the CEO of a company and they're like, all right, let's do this thing. And they're, very right, proper, square shouldered, sort of thing. And then they get into this environment where they're not themselves and they start to take on some of the, so not everybody, of course, but some of them start to take on a little bit more of a hunched, move forward posture, right?
Yes.
So we've got this person who's in an interview, and they're smiling and they're, shoulders back, got their tie on, his suit and everything, and you can infer certain things about someone who stands this way. They're confident. They're in control of themselves and generally the environment around them. Right? They have a
Yes.
presence that speaks to that. And then I find a lot of the time that they sort of become a little bit more like this, as time goes on. they're working on their jobs. And I think part of it just goes to just general being tired, after a long day of work. So there's like the safety vest or whatever, and gloves and a hard hat or glasses and a wig and a fake mustache and a fake beard too. And he's got his Harley back here that he drives to work on, and a lunchbox in his hand. And it's just a lot, Tony. It's a lot.
There's what is it? The classic Christopher Reeve Superman, where it's like where you're watching where he's actually as dressed as Superman, and I think it's right when Lois figures out, oh, by the way, that you're actually Clark, and his posture shifts to Clark, and it's like this weird. It's just his acting, but it's like just kind of like, yeah, you do lose that whole little shoulder thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Well, there's that moment in Superman in those Christopher Reeve movies, and I think it was a great acting choice on Christopher's part when he is going to come out to Lois, and I think it's in Superman 2, and say, "I'm Superman," and because when he's Clark Kent, he's that goofy, fumbling, hunched shoulders all the time, trying to look smaller. Right. He's a big guy that's trying to look smaller. And, I think to that example, one of the most profound things that I think most of us got from Kill Bill is Bill's ideas about Superman and how he's Clark Kent is the mask,
Yes.
that Superman who he really is. Like, I always found that to be somewhat profound in a way.
Yeah, it's that's you leave it to Tarantino to like damn, there's first the Royale with cheese, now this, good grief.
Yeah. So, in that movie, we have the dichotomy of this, bombastic character in Superman who's courageous, who's brave, who's strong, incredibly strong, and often has to pull back from the strength that he has so he doesn't hurt everybody around him. But then you have Clark Kent, and his mannerisms and posture are so different, and you see that very clearly in Superman 2 when he's like, Lois, and I have to tell you something. And then he like takes his glasses off, and he straightens up immediately to like more of the height that he really has, and that's an interesting thing to play with in performance with characters. And again, that speaks again to the gesture drawing aspect of things. That when you're in like a figure drawing class or something like that, doing those gestures and getting those attitudes and finding interesting ways of portraying something, sometimes we need something that has, somebody looking over their shoulder, in surprise. Maybe they ate like the last slice of pizza or something out of a fridge, and they're like, oh, caught red-handed or something like that, But you never know when a piece of script is going to come along that's going to speak to something that maybe you saw in a gesture drawing class. So you can pull those experiences in from your gesture drawing class, or you can put part of your own experience into those scenes. And the character's mannerisms sometimes are going to be your mannerisms.
Is it would you argue that it's more important that story artists understand gesture drawings and drawing in general? Is it more important for them to understand it than even for animators?
I don't think there's more importance on either side. I think they're important for both.
Okay.
I think they're incredibly important for both. I mean, animators are going to... So the difference I feel like between story artists and animators in the way that they draw is that the animators are definitely having to draw in a much more refined and exact way than board artists are. And I think that's one of the reasons why board art is so appealing, because it doesn't have to conform to those rigid rules.
Okay.
And it tends to be a lot looser, right? Because it's fast. And fast boards tend to create more loose lines, oddly enough. But it's identically important to both. Just understanding how to portray a character. understanding how to portray emotion, understanding how to add to a performance, whether it be through some of these, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, but understanding who a character is, is really important, and getting those mannerisms and gestures and the movement right and everything to bring that character to life. I mean, animation, by definition, is, instilling with life, whether that be through, drawings, or a digital 3D puppet, or a actual puppet, or whatever. It's evoking those emotions. I mean, hopefully nobody's turning to necromancy to make animation happen, because
gotta cancel a project there.
Zombies. But I'm sorry if I spoiled your next project.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I can always put them back in the ground. That's cool.
All right. Well, it is October. We can talk about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
But even then, we're going back to what we're doing. If we have, say somebody that is raising zombies, the necromancer is going to move in a way that's more powerful and direct, generally, than this shambling zombie that's going to be, its poses are all going to be on the diagonals, right? Because it's the head is often lolled to the side, the rib cage is off, possibly broken, dangling hands, if not outstretched hands, But you have to instill those characters with that sort of odd, facsimile of life, right? And
there's what is it? Postmodern Jukebox, and again, if no one knows who that is, they basically take like top 40 or classic songs, but do them in a totally different time period. I'm going somewhere with this. Postmodern Jukebox did Thriller with Wayne Brady singing it, but it's like in this 1930s, 1940s style. But in the middle of it, they have these these two ladies, flappers, 20s. Anyway, some time period that's not the current time, the time period of the original Thriller. They come out and they're doing tap dancing, but there's zombies doing tap dancing. One of the dancers, you look at them and go, yes, they are doing all of the zombie things, because it's choreographed. But there's the other dancer that is too busy trying to be sexy or trying to be cute while being the zombie. It's like, you're killing the mood here. It's zombie. Keep it to zombie. Quit smiling. You're supposed to be terrifying. Anyway.
Tell me you didn't understand the assignment without telling me you didn't understand the assignment.
It's like, man. It's like, I'm going to need you to be a little more dead. A little more dead. Can we do that?
Can you leave off the flirting for 2 seconds?
Flirtingzombie.com. Okay, we got this.
Yeah, and leave off, I'm the sexiest thing anyone's ever seen. And again, Tony, what is your opinion on playing opposite to your own character? Like saying, so you're playing somebody that is very, very opposite to your personality personally. Like how do you go about that as an animator yourself?
I don't know. Me personally, I fluctuate, and if you watch any of these recordings, my voice fluctuates depending and mirrors whoever I'm talking to. So I'm normally channeling someone who either I've met before or something like that, or might do something a little different. I had there's a web short that I did where my mannerisms aren't necessarily overly masculine, but they aren't as, what do I say, over the top, dramatic, flamboyant as they were when I spoke in the 80s. That being said, a friend of mine asked, could I play the role of a gay character in this little sketch comedy they were doing? And I was like, sure. I read the script. I was like, Now I'm playing opposite of, I cannot remember his name. Damn it. There's a local comedian who is gay. It's like, so he hadn't actually heard me do any performance stuff. So we're in the sound booth, and I'm talking like, "Hey, nice to meet you," blah 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 blah. And so and it's like, and then it's like, and rolling and recording, and it's like, "Diva, what are you doing?" And it's like you just kind of go there because it's like it's there. You already know who you're channeling, whether it's an uncle, whether it's like for me, my one of my best friends I've had since the '80s, my friend Larry, just channeling that, or what is it? Good grief. I think my inner voice. What does my inner voice sound like? Especially if I'm channeling someone that's very angry. That's what I end up doing. Now, to what if I think I know what you're saying? I remember Chris Georginas talking. This is ages ago. He had to animate Nelly. So Chris Georginas just is not a rapper. He's a really good drummer, not a rapper. so he's talking about sitting in front of a mirror and trying to do those exact poses, and trying to act like he's doing like a rap or something like that. So now I don't know if I answered your question or not.
It did answer my question in the fact that often we're asked to play against type, right?
Yes.
And so finding somebody that is not us within us somewhere, I think can get a little tricky. But generally, I think that people that work in animation are pretty introspective people, right?
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons that we're so introspective is just the fact that we're called on to embody other characters with such frequency. Like when we talk about different animators getting different assignments, some play toward the person, some don't.
Yes.
Often when you're cast as a character, it's going to be because you do well at certain characters. But every once in a while, you're going to get an assignment that isn't going to be the character that you naturally, will gravitate toward. So those are challenges. And I think that having that bit of introspection and trying to find those mannerisms, the way that they move, and the quirks and figuring out what that character is all about is really going to help you portray that.
Agreed. I think the one of the assignments that I missed, like when we used to have malls, if anyone remembers what a mall is giving. I remember even in drawing class being given that assignment, and you're doing quick gesture drawings because you're people watching, staring at what people are doing. From an animator standpoint, I still. Because I'm trying to. I hate videotaping people without their permission.
Sure.
That being said,
I can see how that would be problematic eventually.
You and I both have seen walk cycles. People doing these crazy walk cycles, and like,
oh
my gosh, I got. How do I remember that walk? It's like, whether it's comical or like, how are you doing that? One of the
theme parks are really good for that.
Yes. I saw this. I saw literally the personification of Jack Sprat and his wife. Pretty much was like. So if y'all know the one, but she was very, very heavy set or obese. And I can use that word because I am. So, but he was very slender. But the thing was, they had the same walk cycle. They had the same walk cycle and gestures. I'm like, how are you doing that?
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. Gosh, I'm trying to figure that out in my head, and it's just not.
I think and if I remember right, I think one of them had they were doing the whole little, which I don't get the kids see today, but I think the guy was wearing skinny jeans, but they were sagging also. So I think that's where part of the walk cycle came from. But it was hilarious. I was like, how?
He was skinnier than skinny jeans?
Say again?
He was skinnier than skinny jeans?
He was skinnier than... Well, yeah, because it's like, I'm like, yeah, how are you pulling out? How are skinny jeans hanging off your butt? I don't know. But yeah, it's...
He
But
out
yeah, it was
skinny
like
the
what?
skinny jeans.
So as DeMarcus said, tall, skinny midgets.
Tall skinny midgets. Oh gosh.
DeMarcus Hill was doing my voice actor that I use a lot was rambling off one day, and he was just doing this character, and he's talking like I had a dream I was being these hallucinations that I was being chased by tall, skinny midgets. I was like, what? I was like, okay. Anyway,
like that performance you were talking about just maybe gave me an idea, about how someone would describe that. There.
I'll have to. It's like that's the other thing. What I love about the summit is like, oh yeah, do you know? I have to introduce you to DeMarcus because again, it's um, I was running I didn't have a prize. I think if we actually officially had like T-shirts in stock, I'd send it out to someone. But I was like during DeMarcus's interview, I was like, see if you can count how many voices he throws out just during the interview, because when he's talking normally, he'll slip into a voice that actually makes sense for that comment. Love it.
All right. Yeah. So like, when you have ideas for different mannerisms and gestures and stuff, like, jot them down. Sketchbooks are your friend. Sometimes you'll find that, if you are out there at a mall or theme park or anywhere where people gather in large numbers and you're just sketching people, cafes, whatever, sometimes you can go back to your sketchbook and find cool ideas that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of because you did your observation.
Yes. That's the what is it? David Allen, not David Allen Greer, but David Allen, writer of the book and the concept "Getting Things Done," says the mind is a great place for having ideas, not for storing them. So yeah, you do have to keep a sketchbook on you or a notepad. So when you do have those ideas, those poems or those concepts or even that crazy domain name, you have to jot that idea down. If you're seeing that person, that couple, and again, I'm trying to remember what the heck dude was wearing that made both of them have the same walk gait, which was crazy. If I could have sketched that down really quick, since I am very weird about taking pictures of random people, I will tell you this: there is one person I ended up taking a picture of, and I felt bad, but I didn't feel bad. But it helped me write.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Definitely. Yeah, there was. I was catching the train, and there was two people sitting across from me, and a much older man and this kind of younger-ish woman, and I was trying to figure out from their gestures who they were to each other, because it was something, but I wasn't sure. It wasn't co-workers, so I'd say all that to say that my alter ego, Pookie Johnson, again, I try to catch up with DeMarcus on voices, but in a song I go, excuse me, young lady, is he your uppercase or lowercase daddy? So it's like not knowing what's going on just on the gestures, but I almost feel like I think I have that picture still on my phone somewhere, because it was like I was curious. I'm going like, I'm riding all the way to the train with you, riding all the way to the airport with you all. I haven't figured out what you all are yet. So it's like it was weird.
Yeah, and again, in performance, sometimes that different characters will act differently depending on the company they're with.
Yes.
And because we all do that as people. We have different sort of parts of our personality that come out in the presence of certain other people.
There was an interesting thing that someone was talking about, all of our fantasy movies. It's like, why does everyone have all these, either it's the Irish, Scottish, or these British accents and everything like that? Where is the fairies or trolls that have these Tennessee Appalachian dialect? And I'm thinking, that'd be interesting. And would their mannerisms and gestures change based on that?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, I had a short film idea that I was fleshing out as a potential student film back in the day. I never did it beyond some concept sketches, but it was a short called California Trolls.
Okay.
In that, at one time in California, trolls were a very large population.
Okay.
And whether they emigrated or whether they, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the humans eventually drove them underground. And as a revenge, to this day, they operate large magnets underneath our freeways. And so if you ever see freeways just come to a sudden standstill, you know the magnet's on. Those cars are just to the ground, and they cause traffic jams, and that's why California has so many traffic jams.
Loving it.
It's those darn dirty trolls, man.
It's like what is it? Where in certain I think they did this on Buffy the Vampire Slayer at one point. Depending on when the vampire was turned, it was almost like they were a ghost because they were still wearing what they thought was cool back in their day. So it's like,
I think people do that generally.
I noticed that as well. Because you'll see.
Thankfully for me, 90s style is coming back.
I'm 2000s, like well, not 2000s. Let me rephrase that. When I was a teen, it was in the 80s. So, for instance, I think I recently saw this at Disney, but in the 80s, Coca-Cola had clothing. So that was the popular thing one of the popular things to wear was Coca-Cola clothes. So, yeah.
It's funny how companies make it cool to advertise their products for them for free.
Yes.
I always thought that was funny when I see people walking around like they're human billboards.
And I don't know. I don't know if I can't. I was listening back to it. I don't know if it was something we were talking about or it got into the situation in the recording or not. Tony Grillo and I were talking about that. In the same way, and this is a shout out to. I have to say this carefully without mentioning names.
Okay.
But in the same way with social media, you have to be careful. If there is an author that does not promote your views on something, by no means are you to say, don't buy this video game because this person's behind us and they're getting this money. It's like, and I feel like going to that person going, one, I didn't know the video game existed until you mentioned it. So you're still advertising them. So the trick is, or if there's a chicken restaurant that you don't like because, again, their values, you don't go, well, I never shop there. It's like you're still giving them power, right, via social media or something like that. You have to talk about their competition. So you don't, like, if you're like, I don't drink this or I don't eat this, like, talk about what you do drink or eat. It's that weird thing there. Okay. So yes, I've said a lot without saying a lot.
Personally, I'm really disappointed that Big Chicken doesn't have the banana pudding dessert anymore.
Oh wow! When did they have? I don't even remember that.
I don't know. Or I never even got to try it because they didn't have it. It was and I'm a big fan of banana pudding, man.
It was like I still haven't had. I think one of the chicken places, and I can't even remember now. I literally can't remember. One of them actually did a fried cauliflower, since cauliflower is the new beast of everything now. But
oh yeah, so they're taking something that's relatively healthy and turning it unhealthy.
Pretty much, yes. It's like, well, it's a vegetarian-ish.
He was in the kitchen like Saruman or something like that. He's just cooking up crazy crap.
Loving it.
Took the elves and tortured them and turned them into orcs.
It's like, good grief.
Yeah. Well, how are we doing on time?
We can probably wrap up shortly here. And we got, like I said, we got to pick this back up later, just on the podcast.
Great.
And my phone is going off in the background.
Do we have any other questions before we wrap?
Yes. Any questions from anyone?
Well, if any of you are going to be at Lightbox Expo I will be there as well, and Toon Boom will be there. And so you guys should go by the Toon Boom booth and say hello to all the lovely people there. And if you do spot me, come say hello.
Cool. Now, we are on a slight delay, so I have to make sure no one's actually doing anything. So yeah, dude, I appreciate you actually stopping by. This has really been awesome.
I appreciate you having me. I'm sorry I was late.
No worries, dude. Like I said, we definitely got to do this again, and I definitely want to animate. The Starlets that's a hilarious short to do. I think that's great.
Thanks. Yeah. So we do these things all the time on the Collaboratory. It's on on Toon Boom's Twitch channel, and we stream once a month.
Cool.
And all of this runs on audience suggestion. So the audience suggestion was, I think it was a haunted pool, and the other one was two ghosts talking about how scary they are, and that combined into something that was really funny. And I find a lot of the time that the show is called the Collaboratory because of that very thing, that it runs on audience participation. So it's a laboratory of creativity.
Collaborative
creativity.
Coolness. Well, Mike, thank you again, sir. You are free to go. I'm going to be jumping back over here. I'm going to do this one last announcement, or re-announce my last winners.
Okay.
Great. So, say bye, Mike.
All right. It was a pleasure to be here. See you all. Enjoy the summit.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. So, last day. So again, our day 5 winners were Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. We have Ashley Jackson, or Jackson Ashley, Dennis Achola, and for Toon Boom Harmony, Harmony Premium, by the way, it's Ayla Rady. And again, I'm probably jacking up names here. And for the Wacom one is Jamil Johnson. I'm not sure what my mail thing is doing with the apostrophes, so might be saying those names backwards. But again, congratulations to all of our winners. Thank you all for signing up. I want to say versus last year versus this year, it's well over 3 times the amount of people signed up, which is good, because in theory I can reach out to potential sponsors and go, hey, this is how many people signed up, this is how many people watch, don't you want to give us stuff to give away? So meanwhile, I hope this has been awesome. Keep an eye on your emails. I'll be sending out updates on how to watch the full length or uncut versions of each of the interviews. I think the live ones I'm still going to pop in that'll be popping in there, but outside of that, the interviews, like for instance Ali, as well as I know Mike, is it Mike Atnell? I'm going to mess up people's names because it's late in the day, but a lot of the interviews are like a lot longer there. So I got Tony, thanks again. Thank you. Like I said, I'm going to sleep for half a second. And for those of you who signed up for the workshop, I will see you all tomorrow morning. I'll be sending out emails this evening that has the downloads to the files I'll be using, as well as how to get into the Zoom. So, alrighty. So this has been That Caller Is Persistent. Yes, I know, it's actually my alarm. I was like, I keep trying to go on silent. So this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, signing off, and I've got to go turn off my phone. Have a good one, y'all, and keep an eye out or ear out for my upcoming podcast.